That's right, I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to the Just Knickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen. And as always, we have a lot to talk about. Finishing up our talk on Tom Thibodeau. I mean, for me, I've been on multiple shows. Geoff has been on multiple shows. I don't think Ajay and I think Jerrell, if he comes in, haven't had an opportunity to talk about it. So we'll give them that. Geoff, if you've fine-tuned your take or if it's changed some, you could talk about that as well. We'll talk about the new coach. If there's particular coaches we would like to see as the head coach of the Knicks, or just general principles or things we would like to see from the new coach, whoever it is. We'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about whether or not it's just a new coach that will get this Knicks team to an NBA finals, if there also needs to be some roster changes, and if so, what, and anything else that comes up. So, Geoff, Ajay, how are you?
Pretty good. Ready to get after it.
Hey, man, Queen, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Geoff, Jerrell, Trey when he shows up. I see Trey in the chat. Shout out to you, Trey. Wonder Woman, Nostalgic Nick, Andrew, Ralph, and Real. Everybody's already here early. David G. Shout out to you guys. And man, let's talk about the Knicks, man. Let's talk about the Knicks.
Yeah. So let's just get into it with your overall thoughts, new thoughts on the firing of Tom Thibodeau, the front office deciding to go in a different direction after being 2 games from the NBA finals. If you read their statement, basically saying that they wanted to be aggressive, basically saying they didn't think Thibodeau was the guy that can help them win a championship. So let's just start with you, Ajay, because I don't think you've had an opportunity to talk, at least publicly, about your thoughts on the firing.
Right. So I do have a couple of things I want to say about that. You guys know how I feel about Tom Thibodeau. I would not have minded if they actually have him for one more season on a shorter leash, because my reasoning for that was he only had this team for one season. Okay. And I said, if they let him go, and I repeat verbatim what I've said, I wouldn't shed a tear, and I'm not shedding a tear. It's not like I'm jumping for joy that they let Tom Thibodeau go. But I too agree. And, I hear a lot of things in the media out there on social media and like all the different reasons why they let Tom Thibodeau go, whatever. He didn't agree with this. He didn't agree with that. I look at it from a basketball point of view. I feel like it's justifiable to let him go simply because of basketball. A lot of people are saying, well, his winning, he took the team to like the Eastern Conference final. Like a lot of times in NBA, and we know this, the majority of times in NBA, when you get rewarded, you don't get rewarded. It's a little bit of both, right? You get rewarded for you've done in the past and for your potential, your future potentials, right? I don't think they did Tom Thibodeau wrong, because not only they paid him for what he's done, but they also paid him for what they thought he could do. He's going to get paid for what they thought he could do until they realize that he can't do it. So he's still going to get his money. And I understand it's not a money thing. It's a basketball thing. But for basketball reasons, and I'll run. I know you don't want to spend a lot of time on that, Queen, but I could run through them like real quick. Okay. We do these shows, all of us content providers. And I don't know how many times I've said, if we're sitting from our couch, we could see certain things. How come Thibs cannot see them? Okay. There are certain basketball mistakes that he's made. We can see it, but he had more resources than we do. I mean, he spent 24 hours in the video room. He's got, an insane amount of people on his staff. How come they're not seeing? So we weren't crazy when we were seeing these things. When we were seeing these lineups that were Like, wait a minute. If this guy's hot, why are you taking him out? This lineup is a plus minus positive, is a positive plus minus. Why are you changing that? Why are you playing the guys that are losing the game? Josh Hart played 5 minutes too many in this game. We weren't crazy. Okay, we're just fans, but we love the game. We understand the game. Some of us played the game at amateur level, so we see exactly what other people are seeing. You got to remember, when you're a coach in the NBA, there are people above your head that are watching. Somebody you got to answer to somebody, okay? And that somebody has a basketball team with him that is telling him he's doing this wrong. This one's good. He's doing this right. My thing with coaches, and I've said this many times on this channel, when you're analyzing why a team loses a game, yes, it could be a mistake. It could be a coaching mistake, but it can't be too many times. That's the coach, or that's the coach's philosophy, or the coach, he needs to do this more. He needs to do that more. Too many times Tom Thibodeau's been questioned. And I'm sure, we question him, but obviously the front office has also been questioning his decision out there on the court. Okay. And more recently, we look at the Pacers series, or even this playoff run. Okay. We made it to the conference final, but we really had a terrible playoff run. Okay. When you look at these games, we were behind in I don't know how many of those games and had to fight. It took, there's obviously a lot of talent on this team. That's why we were able to come back and win these games. And of course, with a little luck, with a little bit of luck and a little bit of the other teams, making mistakes and stuff like that. Right. But of course, this is the NBA. These are the best basketball players in the world. As you get deeper into the playoffs, it's harder to recover from your mistakes. It's very hard to recover. And when you watching some of the mistakes we're making, it's like, this team's not ready. This team's not prepared. This team is not playing at it. It's like, how did this team make it to the conference finals? I know how, because it's heavily talented. It's top heavy, as we like to call it. There's 5, 6, 7 guys that are very talented on this team, so they make it. Somehow they find a way to make it to the conference finals. Okay. I was going to say something that escaped me, but I'll give you another example. And everybody thought it was cute when it was reported in the media that Josh Hart went to the coach, said, "Coach, you should start Mitch." If that really happened, that should have never been put out there, because that simply means Thibodeau doesn't know what he's doing. He's not looking at the game. It shouldn't take the player to tell you, "Coach, this is what you got to do to win this game." That should have never happened. It should have been the coach notice this from the get-go, say, "You know what? You're coming out the starting lineup. I'm putting this guy in," because that's his job. So basically, Josh Hart was telling him how to do his job. When that was publicly said, I was like, wait, no, Thibs, you don't tell nobody that. You should never do that, because that's your job. You and your staff's got to look at the game and understand that you should have taken Josh Hart out of the lineup, not Josh Hart come and tell you. So that means you're more loyal to Josh Hart than the team. You're more worried about Josh Hart's feeling and make sure he was okay with it before you actually pull the trigger. You don't get paid for that. You get paid to do what's best for the team, what's going to take the team further. Okay. And I was surprised that they were putting that out there. That should have never been put out there. Okay. And another thing is, obviously we weren't the only one. Honestly, I didn't have a problem with the amount of minutes those guys played. But I did want to see a little bit more of the bench, because eventually you're going to need to know what those guys are doing. You can't trust those guys just based on practice, right? You have to trust those guys in this system that you created, right? And you don't need to see those guys in practice, right? Those guys, they have a body of work. You know what? Shaman's been in the league. He's a young vet, right? So is DeLon Wright. You know what those guys could do. You don't need. I mean, if you don't trust them, why are they on the team, right? But you need to play them with your guys to be able to know, to really to develop whether you could trust them or not. Not the little, orange team, blue team practice you're having. You need to put them out there to see what it is. And as it turned out, that was critical. And it didn't look good for Thibs that when he inserted those guys into the rotation, like with more minutes, that the team was doing well. Now people would be like, damn, you mean to tell me we could have gotten those guys paid? And some people say, well, they were doing well because they didn't play all season. We don't know that. Bottom line is, the end result is when you put them in, they played well. Okay. And even when they couldn't score, somehow when you put those guys in, the team they build up 7-8 point leads because they were getting stops. Right. So something's working with those guys in the lineup. So, and all season we had those guys. Like, it took, I don't know how many bad campaign game. Like, we had shows here with everybody saying, listen, I don't want to see campaign. But Thibs was like 3 games late on that one. But the fan base was like, that we're done. We don't want to see campaign. But he couldn't see that. Okay. His defense, offense, defense substitution was not on point. A lot of times he just waited for it to get too late before he put the right guys in. You got to remember, we're not the only, we were seeing these things, and we were expressing, we were saying this, we were talking about it. And I just I joke all the time. Thibs, the front office, not Thibs, the coach and the coaching staff, they watch this show, because a lot of things we're saying they should do, they actually went ahead and pulled the string and did them. But they should have done a lot more of that. And I'm just saying this jokingly, but point is, there's a lot of basketball minds on that staff. Okay. I think eventually we're going to find out that one of the reasons why they let Tom Thibodeau go is because he wasn't listening to his staff. Right. Because there are certain things we see. Like, I know these guys see the same things. They probably go to Thibs and say, be like, listen, man, this is what you got to do. And he brushed them off. Like, he don't want to hear it. Because you got to remember, these guys, they're paying these guys a lot of money to help you. If you're not taking their help, then what's the point? I mean, I don't know. Like, why are we paying these guys all this money, and then you're not using their basketball knowledge? You're not taking their input. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, when the whole thing, basketball, I mean, forget about, this guy didn't get along with that guy. He didn't talk to Leon Rose for a few months. None of that. For basketball reason, it's not, I'm not surprised that they got rid of Tom Thibodeau. I'm not saying he deserved it. I'm just saying that I understand why they did that. Okay. Because it's going to be like, okay, this guy, it's one way. Okay. And that one way, his philosophy is not the winning philosophy. His philosophy is possibly the philosophy that takes you out of the gutter and make you relevant. But maybe maybe they determine his philosophy is that's not going to be the thing to take you to the championship. Okay. And they didn't do him dirty, because he's going to get his money for his contract that kicks in a couple of weeks. So it's not like they screwed him. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of little things like that. There's a lot of like I said, coaches make mistakes. They're human. Everybody make mistakes. But when your philosophy is the mistake, and you don't want to change from that, and that's when the front office got to step in and say, you know what, maybe you're not the right guy to go further. Okay. And he's done a tremendous job. Remember last season, Queen, we were on crutches, and this man somehow got it to Game 7 of the Eastern semis. I mean, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
So
appreciate your take. Geoff, I know you've spoke about this already. Do you have any other thoughts you want to add to it?
There's more than one way to skin a cat. Thibodeau's not the only coach in the good coach out there in the world. It's just incumbent upon the Knicks to find one, and to find the right one, because the championship window is open, and we don't want to waste a year. And some people will feel like having Thibodeau back, it would have been a waste of that year. I'm going to respect that opinion too. But what's done is done. I can't change it. Let's look ahead and not back. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, first of all, shout out to Nick Nation content creators, those on Twitter, those on the chat. I think the more I listen to people, it just allows you to kind of ponder things and change your take a little bit. And, just listening to so many people, even those in the national media, whether I agree with them or not. I will say this. I think it was the right move, but it was also a risky move. And the reason why I say it was the right move is because the sense I got was that the front office was losing faith in him. I think there was some in the front office, from what I understand, not just with the Indiana series, just throughout the season, who wasn't a fan of his approach. And I would guess that's playing the starters heavy minutes. I guess that would also be not playing your bench. And there may have been some other things as well. I think once you lose the trust of the front office, you kind of have to move on. Like, we're not even talking about basketball stuff right now. If you in the front office are not seeing eye to eye, and you're pulling in different directions, and they think you should be doing one thing and maybe even bringing it to your attention, but you feeling like that's not the direction I want to go, I think that's a reason to part ways. We're just not on the same page. I think the second thing is, in those exit interviews that I understand Dolan was there, first of all, I don't think you should, in my opinion, have exit interviews with the players and the owner 6 minutes after the season ends. Like, let the players, come down a little bit, gain a little perspective before you start having them in there with the owner talking about whether or not Thibs is the guy. But another thing, I don't know this for a fact, but whoever they spoke to, whichever players was in that meeting, Thibs must not have gotten a ringing endorsement, right? And so if the players are not endorsing you, if the players don't think you're the guy to go forward, even if they're not saying much, they may not have said, no, he's not the guy. But if they're not giving you a ringing endorsement, I think that is another reason to move in another direction. And as much as I think, from a basketball perspective, there were reasons to move off from Tom Thibodeau, I really think it was the front office not believing in him and the players perhaps not believing in him. That was the main reason they let him go. And I'm not minimizing the schematic piece as well. To me, I just think that's the main piece. Front office, players, they're not pulling for you. I do think you need to. I think you need to go in another direction. I do want to push back on we saw it. Tom Thibodeau didn't, so he doesn't know what he's doing. He's dumb. How can he not see that? I'm not sure on Twitter. What's Lowe's first name? L-O-W. Zach Lowe put out a short video clip. And, I'm not at home. I would have liked to have played it. But basically what he said is, for those fans, and that would be me included, who think we know more than Tom Thibodeau or more than any coach, they know more than we do. And if they're seeing, if we're seeing something, they see it also. And if they're not doing it, there's a reason why they're not doing it. So he talked about how coaches see things 2 and 3 and 4 steps ahead. Well, if I do this, they're going to do that, right? And DJ Zulu, who I respect from KFS, said that once he talked to Phil Jackson, this was the comment under that post, and he told Phil Jackson the 1997 team would have beaten whatever team he was talking about. And maybe he was just going off of talent. And he said Phil Jackson broke it down real quick how he would have taken advantage of the front court. He said, and that's just the front court. We're not even talking about the back court. So for me personally, I want to be very respectful, because when I'm looking at the game, I have limited factors. I have limited knowledge of everything that goes into a decision that any coach makes, whether it's schematic or lineup wise. And even if I have the on-off, stats, the coach has that too. So if they're not doing it, they're not dumb, they're not stupid, they don't, it's that there is another reason that I'm not aware of, or even if I was aware of, I might not agree with it, but there's a reason they're not following it. And sometimes when you hear that reason, it makes sense. You still might not agree with it. Don't get me wrong. You still might not agree with it, but it makes sense. My point is, for me personally, because I've been in this situation and I've had friends ask me after the game, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, well, A, B, and C. And they said, okay, I get it. I wouldn't have did that, but I get it. So, for me, it's just that understanding that coaches aren't dumb. They see the same things. They have their own reasons for not doing it that I may not agree with, right? That being said, so I will respectfully say, this is what I didn't understand, or this is what I would have liked to see, right? Listen, I would have liked to have seen the starting lineup maximized a little more offensively. But in all fairness, because I think there are layers to this, and I think it's a bit more nuanced as well, right? So as much as I would like to see more synergy between Cat and Brunson, Cat was dropped into onto the Knicks right before training camp. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe it takes years. Like you think about Tatum and Brown, it took years for them to get it together. And listen, I'm not making excuses for Thibodeau. Like I said, I think it was the right decision, a risky decision, but a right decision. I would like them to bring in somebody who, in my opinion, my humble opinion, where I could see what they're trying to do schematically, offensively, and defense. So I'm not making excuses, but what I am trying to say is there's layers to it, and it's more nuance to, oh, I think he should put in Mitch. He didn't put in Mitch. He's dumb. He don't know. Like, there's a reason he's not putting in Mitch. That maybe, we don't understand. But I would have liked to have seen more of the 5-out offense. Even if you're not changing the starting lineup, I would have liked to have seen more of it. I think if you bring in Karl-Anthony Towns and Brunson, you already know what it is. So you got to play to their strengths. And I think giving them that space for them to operate, I do think plays to their strength. I would have liked to have seen more of the pick and roll, but I got to be honest. How you running a pick and roll, and I don't know if it's Karl-Anthony Towns just not making contact with Brunson on the screens, or if it's Brunson not setting it up. You're not getting anything out of the pick and roll unless the pick hits. And if you watch their pick and roll, it's not a Mitchell Robinson pick and roll, I'll tell you that. You rarely get a good pick, but that's not.
Their pick and roll. There's no pick in the pick and roll.
Yeah. So yeah, I would have definitely liked to see more 5-out lineup, more maximizing this offense. I think he got a lot out of Towns. I think this idea that he misused, like Karl-Anthony Towns had a career year. Now, could he have gotten more? Yeah. Could he have used him more? Ran the offense through him more? But this idea that he misused them and he didn't get anything out. Karl-Anthony Towns had one of his best seasons, and he's been in the league for 10 years here. So listen, you lose the faith of the front office, you lose the faith of your players, you have to go. Schematically, I would have liked to have seen a few things differently, both offensively and defensively. I would have liked to have seen, like I said, lean into the 5-out lineup. But you got to keep in mind, you take Josh Hart out the starting lineup, where you putting him? You bringing him in with Mitch? You know what I mean? It just, one move creates another issue that you have to think about. In the Anything else on Tom Thibodeau before we move into the new coach? Shout out to the chat. I appreciate you. You guys being here. Yeah. So let's get into the type of coach you would like to see. If you have any particular names you would like to see. I also want to talk about the roster a little bit. I think getting rid of Tom Thibodeau is the easy part of this. Like, if we think that the reason why we didn't, well, in my opinion, the reason we didn't make it to the NBA Finals is not wholly on Tom Thibodeau. Some of it is player performance, and some of it is roster construction as well. And it's not clean, right? Like roster construction can impact performance, right? You got your all thumbs team in there, you're gonna turn the ball over. You know what I mean? Lineups impact, so they impact each other. It's not a clean break, but it wasn't just Tom Thibodeau. There's some other things as well. So let's talk about either a particular coach you would like to bring in or the type of coach you would like to bring in. Geoff?
Well, I don't have any specific names, but some of the things that I would like to see is getting Jalen Brunson off the ball more. He's one of the best catch and shoot three-pointer shooters in the league. Let's utilize that as a weapon more. Let's find a way to have a Cat Brunson pick and roll that works, that does where Cat is strong on the pick, and we do get results that, and some of that's on Jalen, because Jalen likes to reject those screens a lot. And it's almost like he prefers the ghost screen, which we ran a lot, especially with our guards, with Hart and Bridges. They would run those ghost screens, and he liked to reject screens a lot. And I think that moving forward, I don't know that may be the best thing to get his offense going, but it may not be the best thing to get our offense going. And so I think I'd kind of like to see a little bit more of that. I think we have to take advantage of the talent that's on the roster. If you're going to keep the combination of Towns and Brunson, I think you need to lean into the 5 out, have shooters all over the floor, and try and win games with your offense and hope your defense is good enough. And I'd like to see a coach that can maximize Mikal Bridges. I felt like Bridges was kind of, he didn't seem like himself almost this year. It was like he didn't, he just wasn't all there. And I just think that for the Knicks to be the best realized version of themselves, assuming this core is together, which I don't know we can assume, but if this group is coming back, I think we need a lot more out of Bridges, and we need a lot more out of OG too. This combination, who was very good from 3-point range, especially from the corners all regular season, shot like 30-something%, low 30s from 3 in the playoffs. Well, what changed? Is it just bad shooting? Is it not enough opportunities? Is it not the right opportunities? Like, what happened with those? Because we need those two guys to succeed. We need to figure out a way we need to get Josh Hart out of the starting lineup. We've got to have a coach who's confident, whether it be Deuce or a player who's not on the roster yet, somebody who fits with that starting unit better, and eliminate the ability to just put the 5 on Hart and then create mediocre offense for us. Or conversely, if you can do that with Hart being guarded by the 5, then do that. But I think those are some of the things that we have to look at schematically. But as far as specific names are concerned, every name that I've heard, I'm not overly crazy about so far. So, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. I mean, it's funny because some of the loudest people who are yelling fire Thibs are looking at some of these candidates and they're like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't have fired Thibs. I don't want that guy. Right? So as you said, the easy part was getting rid of the old guy. The hard part is identifying the new guy. And I will say this though, and then I'll hand it over to Ajay. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling on here, but
take your time.
When Mark Jackson left Golden State, he left a team that was 51-31. And then Steve Kerr took over and they won like 67 games and they won the championship. What was the Knicks record this year? 51-31. Right? And so I'm hoping that we find whomever he is out in the ether. Maybe it's Johnny Bryant, who knows? But whomever that is, that we find lightning in a bottle and he wins us 67 games and a championship. That's all I can go with. Whoever the name is, I'm going to root for him like with everything I've got. And let's go get a title because that's all I've ever cared about.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. Ajay, any particular coach or what you're looking for?
Queen, I don't have a particular name. Okay. And like Geoff, I hear all those names out there. I'm like, nothing impressive. But bottom line is, I'm sure the front office is going to do their due diligence and they're going to enter. I know they're doing research. Before they fired Thibs, they have their research. They have their pool of coaches that they want or that they're targeting, right? Bottom line is you got to find a coach that help you maximize this team the way it is, or with whatever little tweaking they're planning on making in the offseason, because we don't know what they're planning. We don't know what the plan is, right? We don't know what the roster is going to look like next season, right? So we're here trying to figure out what coach we need for this roster. Maybe this is not the roster we're going to end up with. Maybe they're already projecting, okay, this coach that we're going after is going to work out with this roster that we're trying to build, after trading such and such player and so on and so forth, right? We don't know. So the fact that people are speculating, thinking that, it's good for talk, for content creation and for media talk and all that nonsense. But if you don't know their plan, if you don't know what they're doing, what the roster is going to look like, so you really can't tell what kind of coach. Bottom line is you need a coach who's, I'm sure the coach is going to be a 100% basketball mind, who's going to bring his own staff. Everybody live and breathe basketball, and they're going to figure out how to maximize this team, whatever that team is, when we get, when we start training camp, right? And that's really the point, the purpose of every coach. And this is what they're trying to do. I don't have a name. And I'm not even trying to figure out what name. I could guess some names that are out there, with some likely names that everybody's talking about, with some names that I have a name that nobody's thinking about. I'm like, well, that wouldn't be impossible. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him, and they're the obvious, the usual suspects but shout out to Size 9. Very creative comment here. Same old Knicks. Shout out to you, brother. But yeah, anyway, so I don't have a particular name.
Yeah. So for me, I do think schematics is part of it, but we got to be careful. It's multiple things you need in a head coach. So you may come in and get a head coach that has a great offensive mind, but they don't command the respect of the players in the locker room. Right? So you have to have somebody, because if the players, this is the NBA is a players league. Like, this is not college, this is not high school. If you can't create relationships with your players, communicate with them, have them buy into what you're trying to do, you could be the best offensive mind in the NBA. It's not going to matter. You're not going to have your job for long. Right? That is a big part of being a head coach in the NBA, is being able to command the respect of your players. They want to play for you. They believe in you, and not only that, you also have to hold them accountable, right? When things aren't going well. So it may take, depending on who they bring in, if they bring in somebody these players already know and respect, that part is already done. If they don't, then that coach is going to have to build that part of it. To me, I don't want to understate that. Because a lot of times you will run into execution issues because the player is just not going to do it. I don't give a damn what you asking me to do. I'm just not doing it. Right? We see that. I'm not going to say all the time, but we see that a lot. So I definitely want a coach that can maximize this roster, particularly Brunson and Cat, because for me, you can't maximize Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Those are third and fourth options, or 3A and 3B. They're going to get what they're going to get off of Brunson and Towns. Like, I don't think there's enough room, like, so we're going to run some plays through Bridges. We're going to run some, like, you can run a few sets here and there, but the bulk of it is Brunson and Cat. How do you get the most out of that duo? And do you have the right players around them to play off of them? When they brought Bridges in, I think they just brought Bridges in to hit the corner three and play good defense. You know, they gave up those many picks because they thought he was the finishing piece to the wing stop. And that around Brunson, if you have three switchable guys, and I think they really thought when they started that Josh Hart was going to be a good defender, and that they were going to have three good defenders around them, and they were going to be somewhat switchable around those two. And Bridges just wasn't, even though his numbers look good, if you watch the games, he didn't look that great to me in terms of consistently hitting the three-point shot. Right? OG was also inconsistent. So I think that's another question. Are those the best guys to put around Cat and OG? Defensively, they are. But if they can't hit the three consistently, the corner, well, I'm saying corner three, it might be a whole different offense. If they can't hit the three consistently to help create space for those two guys, they're not the right guys. You know, the Knicks are a top-heavy team. Do they want to give up one of those guys to get some real players on the bench? You know what I mean? Because you got to make a decision. You're going to be top-heavy with a thin bench, or you're going to have two really, really good guys, some so guys, and you're going to have a more robust bench. It's only but so much money to go around. The Knicks are putting, 80% of their money, 75%, I'm not sure what it is, in those top four guys. And if you add Hart, so what's left over to get a decent bench? So I think that's something the Knicks are going to have to decide. Do we want to sign Bridges to an extension? Or do we use that money to get somebody better suited for our bench? Another 3-and-D guy that's going to be cheaper. You can't be top heavy. It's one of the other. So that's a decision they're going to have to make with the new coach. But yeah, defensive schematics that work for this team, maybe a little zone, right, with Cat and Brunson, right? Offensive schematics to get the most out of this team, and bench coaching, being able to make decisions on the fly, lineup decisions on the fly, schematic decisions on the fly during a game, right? But again, all of that is good, but you still have to have that relationship piece, that communication piece, where the players want to play for you, and you have that respect. Nothing else is going to fly if you don't have that. Just look at Budenholzer and Phoenix. That was the main thing. Maybe he is a great offensive mind. Maybe he isn't. He did not command their respect, and maybe because he wasn't a good tactician, right? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm looking for in a head coach. I like Jason Kidd. If they're able to pry him away from Dallas, I think he would help Brunson a lot. I don't know if he's a great schematics guy, offensively. I think he did a decent job, at least in year 2, getting Luka and Kyrie to play together, but those are guards, right? So I don't know. I hear Johnny Bryant is really good offensively, in terms of his principles, and that may work well for Brunson and Cat, but are we going to lose a few games as he's trying to get his feet wet in terms of in-game coaching, right? Because there's a learning curve. There is a learning curve for a first-year coach, right? So I just think there's more considerations than just schematics. And does it matter to you if it's a first-year coach or a college coach?
College coaches don't typically work out in the NBA. It's a different game. So I would be a little bit leery of a cut. Not saying that it's impossible, but I mean, Pitino said he doesn't want the job. And other than that, the only guy I would really want to consider is Wright. Hurley said he doesn't want it either. So I'm not really, so if it's not those two guys, Wright would be the only other guy. And, I don't know that Wright would want the job, but and I'm not sure that leaning into the Villanova friendship circle is the way to go either. So I would prefer it not be someone from college. I would prefer someone with experience and championship experience at that, because like what's the big criticism of Tom Thibodeau? He's never been to the finals. He's never won a championship. Well, if you hire somebody else who's never been to the finals and never been to a championship, not to say that they can't go, but they haven't done it either, right? And so, but the NBA finals list is rather short, and I don't think we're getting any of those guys. Jason Kidd's been to an NBA finals, but my question with him is how much does it cost to get him? Like, we're a team that's strapped for picks to begin with. You're telling me we're giving up draft capital just to get a coach? Like, to me, it depends on the price, I guess, but I'm just leery of that. So again, the Knicks put themselves in this situation. They have to find somebody good. And look, Johnny Bryant has a rapport with some of the players, but less than a third of less than a third of the roster, because everybody else is gone from when he was here. And if we were going with familiarity with the coach, then we probably should have just kept the coach that we had, right? The idea, I think, of bringing in a new coach is to inject something different into the system and different systems, more effective systems with the players that we have, and if we're going to bring a guy who's going to bring mostly the same, I don't think that that's what we want, is it?
No. Yeah, I agree with that. Ajay, does it matter to you if it's a first-year coach or college coach?
Again, it doesn't matter. I'm sure they're gonna do their homework, and they're gonna find out what's best for whatever that roster is that they're gonna have. I just want to mention that all these coaches coming out and saying no. Listen, there's like a little brotherhood, like a little fraternity of these NBA coaches and players, and not just NBA, but basketball. All those people are saying they don't want the job, probably because they know they're not on the list, okay? Because they would have been contacted already. They would have known if the Knicks are interested in them. So, Wright saying he doesn't want he's probably, probably know that the Knicks are not interested in him anyway. So I don't put a lot of value into all those people coming out and saying no, they don't want the job, because they already know the job is not, like, they're not interested in them getting the job. Those who are interested, they already know, because the team have reached out to them in some capacity. So, but
I think also part of it can also be I could see some coaches not wanting the Knick job, particularly if they're already financially secure. You coming into a pressure cooker. The expectation is that you win right away. So that's a lot of pressure.
I could see that too. But there's one thing that's you have to remember with those coaches and athletes. They're very competitive, and most of them don't want the easy way out, right? Most of them like a challenge. Okay, they don't want to come in here into a situation where it's just going to be a walk in the park. All right. So, like I said, they probably know the Knicks are already not interested in them, so they're coming out and saying whatever.
I think that's some of them, but listen, even when, I think that might be true for some. But I think there are others who don't want this challenge of coaching in this city with this fan base, with an owner who, has been pretty silent, stayed out of it, but can get in his feelings, and you could be out. And the expectation is, listen, the Knicks went to the Eastern Conference Finals. The expectation is NBA Finals. I could see some coaches saying, I'd rather go to Phoenix. You know what I mean? Or I'd rather go to, sure, there's some that's competitive. They're going to find somebody. But don't underestimate some coaches saying, I don't want any part of New York.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
To not just to you, but to the chat as well. What are our thoughts on Monty Williams? I know I brought him up briefly on another show. What do you think about him in general as a coach? I know he had a lot of success in Phoenix. He was a disaster in Detroit, but I don't think he was really trying. He's dealt with talented rosters before. I think he's coached Bridges before. In fact, so is that a possibility, or should we just hang up the phone on that, or I
don't know about his schematic. Like I'm not. I like that he's defensive oriented, Geoff. He's from that Thibodeau school, like that. Those coaches that command a lot of you. Defensive minded. I just don't know about his bench coaching, and I don't know much about schematics. So yeah, that part I don't know, but just from the little bit I do know, I wouldn't mind Monty Williams, but I think that would be a big part of it, is just what is his offensive, like that has to be one of the top questions, right? How are you going to use Brunson and Cat? Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Monty Williams, depending on how he answers those questions. Yeah.
I have a question also, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Online, I mean, that's the fan base overwhelmingly claiming for Johnny Bryant. Like, may I ask why? Is this like monkey see, monkey do? A couple of people saying it and everybody saying it, or is there? What am I missing here?
So from what I gathered, and I thought the same thing too. From what I gathered, he is is looked at as a up and coming coach. A very good. He's on that list of coaches that are deemed as with potential to do well if given an opportunity. He's on that list, and there's other coaches on that list as well. And from what I understand is that his offensive philosophy, I think I put a little clip on Twitter that I got from, I think it was JD, and I shared it, I think, JD Sports Talk, him talking about his offensive philosophy, right? So I think that's part of it as well. He's on a short list of up and coming coaches, and offensively, his philosophy looks like it may fit Cat and Brunson.
Okay. I mean, I don't know much. I didn't know he actually had a philosophy that people knew about because he hasn't coached. So I know he's been assistant coach. I just, and pardon my ignorance, I just didn't know that he actually had a philosophy that people knew about.
Yeah, and he was the finalist for the Phoenix job. And then he was also the finalist, I think, last season or the season before for the Utah job, if I'm not mistaken. He was a finalist.
Yeah, he was. You're right.
Didn't he? Like he was an assistant in Utah also, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He was. He and Donovan. He gets a lot of credit.
Right. Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was shout out to Vaughn Quan. Hope I got that right. Johnny Bryant was supposed to be Thibs' successor. From what I understand, the front office hired him, not Thibodeau. and he left for Cleveland when Thibodeau signed the extension, right? So maybe that was an indication that, I'm not going to get the job now. Y'all signed him to an extension. I might as well move on. I'm reading into that. I don't know that as a fact, but it sounds plausible. Then all of a sudden he's a finalist for Phoenix. They fired Tom Thibodeau. OTT, I guess gets the job. So I don't know.
Who was on the same staff with Bryant, by the way. They were both Cleveland assistants.
Yeah. So let's see if there's anything to it. Do you think the Knicks should they take as long as they need? Or should they try to get someone in prior to the draft, which I think is the end of the month? Because that's when a lot of trades go down. And I would think that you would want your coach in place, kind of know the type of players he wants, because that's the first wheeling and dealing time. And then the second one is free agency. Thoughts on that?
So I'll answer that. There's a difference between the coach being in place and them announcing the coach publicly. So are you saying, should they announce the coach publicly, or should the coach be in place? Because the coach could already be in place, but nobody says anything. And then they make it move based on what that coach says. And, without us knowing who that coach is.
I mean, why though? I mean, I can see I'm saying within the next 2 weeks, I can see why they wouldn't want to do it like today, because then optics maybe. I don't really think that's that big a deal, but within the next 2 weeks, let's just say.
I don't see the pressure to announce anybody. I just don't see it. But that's
I think it's important because you're entering a key roster construction season, and I think it's unwise to not have your coach in place as part of the consultation process and input wise and all of those things, because if he's going to be coaching the team, he should have some input into what groceries are going to be in there, right? And we have, if we pick up the options on Hukporti and Tucker, we have 4 open roster spots, and 11 guys, not including the two-way. We'll have those also, but so I don't think we need to have this done tomorrow, but I don't think we need to have it drag into the middle of July either. I think you need to have your guy in place prior to the draft, and because a lot of trades happen draft night, and then also you go from the draft to free agency just like that. It's like the next week or something like that. It's not a long time. So, I think, be thorough by all means. I don't think, we have all week to interview as many candidates as we want, scour, leave no stone unturned, but there's no need to make this a 2, 3, 4 week process.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
I think we have one late second round draft pick.
Number 50.
Do you think we're going to be making all this, moving and grooving and shaking and baking on draft night? I'm just asking.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with the draft pick. You can make a move. It has nothing to do with your draft pick.
Okay.
During the draft.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times big trades happen draft night. So, and a lot of times they can't become official until the start of the new league year. But a lot of times the parameters are discussed and ironed out, and it's like unofficially official until the start of business, and then it goes down. But because it's all about organizing your roster. You're going to say, okay, we're going to do this so that we can draft this guy and it fits, and so forth and so on. So, just because we only have pick number 50 doesn't mean that we won't be active on draft night. I think it was even Begley, maybe not, but that said that he expects the Knicks to be rather aggressive now, as far as making changes to the roster. Now, what that means, I have no idea, but I tend to believe, just based on the sourcing that I've heard, say that's probably gonna be the case.
In your opinion, do you think the Knicks need aggressive roster changes, or do you think just changing Tom Thibodeau is enough, and that just bringing a coach that can get what they can out of the roster as it is, with maybe a tweak, like a small tweak here and there?
What do you call
Anybody?
what do you call a small tweak, though?
Add maybe add somebody to the bench, maybe add another backup point guard, for Brunson that could play with him. I would love to see that could play with him, that can facilitate the offense. I think it's really hard to run Brunson off ball when you don't have anybody that can actually facilitate the offense and be a threat. I'm not talking about just bringing the ball over half court and bringing it back, giving it back to Brunson. Like, it's the same thing. But somebody who can actually facilitate an offense so Brunson can really play off ball. And I don't know, that might be a major change. But anyway, yeah, just your thoughts on if you think major changes are needed or minor tweaks.
I think we need a new starter at either the 2 or the 4. That's what I think. And if it's a 2, I'd almost prefer it to be a combo guard who can play the 1 or the 2 and alleviate that pressure off of Brunson and do some of those playmaking things so that JB doesn't have to. He still can, but it's not reliant. But it's, the Pacers just ran Brunson into the ground 94 feet every time he's in the game. Well, if you have a combo guard as your other starter who's pretty effective, and you can use those 2 in tandem, that neutralizes. And they're not the only team that was doing that. So, I mean, Boston did it a lot to us as well. So if that's the meta to defend the Knicks and you can flip that on its head, I think that would be effective. But I also think, I mean, if you can move Josh Hart to the bench, I think that's better off anyway. If you can also do it as I say a 4, because then you could slide OG down to the 3 and have McCall at the 2. And again, Josh Hart goes to the bench, assuming they're not one of the guys going out to get whatever player that this may be, right? But to me, I would really like to change the makeup of that starting lineup with a solid veteran guy who's reliable, and if that means that one of the guys that are here now has to get, one or more has to go, then I'm comfortable with that. Like if you could, we saw what Deuce did in the starting lineup with those guys. Well, if we could get an upgrade from Deuce to do that, and then someone that we can, and then put Josh Hart as your glue guy and off the bench, who's an energy guy. I think he fits that role much better. And I just think that creates a lot more options for us. The bench is going to be kind of slim either way. We don't have a lot of money to make changes there, right? I mean, other than Precious Achua, I think I'm going to just call Robinson and Bridges and Robinson and Deuce, our first 7, but I'm talking about the back half of the rotation. But everybody else on the back half was either a rookie or a veteran player. And so, except for Achua, and I don't know that anybody's really like dying to get Achua back. Other than the Knicks may want to re-sign him just so that they can trade him his salary somewhere else, because otherwise you don't really want to just lose $6 million in salary or whatever is that he's making. You're much better off, getting him to agree to a deal and then moving him somewhere to help get the player that you want.
I have a question for you, Geoff.
Go ahead.
Can you give me a player? It may not be a player we can get, but just a player mold type, that not a mold type, an actual player next to Brunson, whether we can get him or not. So I could just get a sense of what you're talking about in terms of what you want to see next to Brunson? Is there a player that epitomizes that's in the league right now?
Oh golly, that's a tricky question because he's the player that I'm naming is probably going to be too good for us to acquire. But
no, but that's fine. But it'll give us a sense of the type.
Devin Booker.
Oh, okay.
Spider Mitchell, like somebody like that, somebody who's legit, like a really good dynamic guard who can, who's dangerous, like almost emulating what Cleveland has with Garland and Spider. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Preferably someone with a little more size, because Brunson is a small guard, but I would like to see something, and that's what I'm saying is someone along the line of that mold.
So what I'm hearing from you is not just somebody who can run the offense, but somebody that's dynamic on the offensive end as well. Okay, wow. So I was thinking more about a DeJounte Murray type, because I'm just thinking more about size, defense, and can also run the offense. But you bring up a good point. Somebody that can do all that, but also is dynamic scoring wise. Okay.
I would sign up for Murray. I like that name a lot, actually. The only thing that worries me is his health, but there's a healthy DeJounte Murray added to this squad. That would be an excellent choice.
Yeah, but I mean a Murray type, right? Because we're not going to be able to get DeJounte Murray. I mean a Murray type, like somebody with size, play next to Brunson. Either one of them can bring the ball up. Either one of them can run the offense. And you got to be able to command respect, because if you don't command respect, they're going to still be able to crowd Brunson. And this is what happened in the playoffs. Always, when somebody looks bad, it's not just that player. It's not just, trust me, Brunson made mistakes as well. But it could be lineups that made him look bad. It could be that there wasn't another ball handler that made him look bad. It could be that guys weren't hitting their shots to command the respect of the Pacers defense, so they were able to crowd Brunson, which makes them look bad. So when somebody looks bad, there's multiple reasons, why they're looking bad. Rebuild NYK said Dyson Daniels. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
Is he dynamic enough?
Did he ran point guard for them?
He's the best. Sure. He's the best of it. But I don't think Atlanta's given up Dyson for.
No, but even that mold of a player, though, who's not really a shooter. He's not really he can play decent.
Point of attack defender, excellent point of attack defender, and that's something that we need, and it's something that Bridges is not.
Correct, and that's another reason why he didn't look good.
No, absolutely it is. Absolutely.
That's another reason why he didn't look good. The thing about a Dyson Daniels type, though, any concern about the poor shooting and, him running the offense?
Yeah, I would be concerned about that. I definitely would be concerned about that. I think when you have a player like that, his defense is stellar, but then he creates similar problems when you don't have to be guarded on the other end. That makes life difficult for Brunson again, right? That makes life difficult for Cat. That means more double teams and more roaming and more, all of those things. And I think part of the idea, at least to me, of moving on from Thibs is to bring in an offensive philosophy and an offensive culture where we eliminate that weakness, right? That where we lean into the offense and offensive creativity a little bit more.
Right. But Ajay, did you want to add something? Because I had another question as well.
Yeah, and what the original question was like in terms of the roster construction, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I'm the Knicks, my priority this offseason would be to get a real power forward. Josh Hart playing power forward in the starting lineup is detrimental to the team. And Josh Hart, he's great at what he does. He's the Swiss Army knife. He does a lot of those little things. But you really, and I've said this many times, structurally the team was flawed because you had him in starting lineup. So it's not going to be something the fan base love Josh Hart. I like him too. It's not going to be very popular, but
I
you
don't
might
think
have
anybody is crying over Josh Hart going to the bench. I don't think that's an
no.
issue.
But what I'm saying is we might have to lose him completely, not just send him to the bench, because you're probably gonna need his salary to get the power forward. And the power forward, you don't even need you don't even need, thank you, Kevin Bergen, but a forward. Okay, Josh Hart, he pointed out that OG would play power forward. Thanks for pointing
OG
that out.
is the power forward. Everybody keeps
OG's power
saying that.
forward.
OG is the power forward
Yeah,
on
OG's
this
power
team.
forward. But the thing is, when you, I mean, it's almost like positionless, because a lot of times you had Josh Hart checking the power forward, or I don't know, Josh Hart played the 3 or the 2, or either way, him in the starting lineup caused a structural problem because he's 6'4". Even for the small forward, his skill set is not that of a small forward or of a shooting guard, right? But going back to what I was saying is, you might need his salary to get the player that you want, and that's why we might have to lose him. I don't expect Josh Hart to be here next season.
Yeah, he might not, but more than Josh Hart, and this may be unpopular, I think it's Bridges. Like I don't think the Knicks have a serious decision to make about signing Bridges to an extension. I don't think the Knicks need to be so top heavy. I don't think you need 4 players making whatever they're going to be making. If Brunson and Cat are your main guys, and you want to put 3 and D around them, is there a cheaper 3 and D guy than Mikal Bridges? I mean, and I get it. You gave up 5 picks for him, so you want to hold on. You want to try to make some. Is there a cheaper 3 and D guy than Mikal Bridges? And I'm not saying you could trade Hart too, and I do think Hart is going to go to the bench. But are you signing Mikal Bridges to a max extension?
That's a good point. Decisions,
because if we stay top heavy, so then you're going to have to use Josh Hart. Who else? Where else? Josh Hart and Precious to get you a starter and fill out the bench? I don't know if that's enough.
Well, Mikal makes about 24.9 or 25. Let's just call it 25. And I think Josh Hart is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. Okay. And Mitchell Robinson is somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 and a half. Robinson and Bridges are in the same boat as far as being extension eligible. The Knicks have shown a tendency to move the extension eligible players that they have if they don't intend on extending them, right? See Obi Toppin, see Emmanuel Quickley, see Julius Randle, right? This is a pattern with this front office. And so between those 3 guys, Mitch, Bridges, and Hart, you're talking, I don't know, like probably 57, 58 million in salary. So that's a package for a big player. That's a package for a couple of smaller players. That's an avenue to significantly change the makeup of your starting lineup. And if we're going to make changes, that's where it's going to come from, some kind of deal that involves similar packages of players to that, because we don't have, other than that, we'll have the taxpayers mid-level exception, which is like $5.5 million. And that's not going to get us a rotation. It may get us a rotation player. Certainly not going to get us a starter. And I think that we need more than just a $5.5 million guy added to this bunch. And I'm not sure that they want to spend the taxpayer MLE for the simple matter that hard caps you at the second apron. So, which may not be a problem, but it does, handcuff you specifically because you are, if you sign that contract, you have to make sure you stay underneath that. So that changes what kind of flexibility you have moving forward.
Do you think the Knicks, though? I mean, how many big name players do you need? Like, do you think the Knicks need another big name player, or do you think it's Brunson and Cat? What's the best roster you could put around them? Like, how would you use that 50? Would you go out and get a star player, or would you go out and get a starter and fill out your bench? I'll start with Ajay.
Say that again.
If you had $50 million and we're talking, that's Bridges, Hart, Mitch, whoever else you want to put, like OG, Cat, and Brunson probably staying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Would you go out and get a star with that 50, another star to put with them, or would you get a starter, fill out the bench? Like, how would you go about it in terms of roster building?
I would get a starter and fill out the bench with playable reserves. Okay, so we don't want to be in the same dilemma where we again top heavy and then we have a weak bench. We just ran through that this season. See that didn't work. Okay. So no, I would definitely try to get a good player and then fill out the bench. So I wouldn't go spend like another $50 million on one player and then get a bunch of guys, minimum salaries, mid-level exceptions, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Jeff?
Well, this is not going to be a popular thing to say, but judging by what Shams put out today, that player might be Kevin Durant. And you're hearing also that they don't have any interest in Towns. Well, what if that means that Towns is staying put and the package is the package for look, this is not what I would do. I'm not saying
I get it
in favor of this, but it's a real possibility. The Knicks were in trade talks with Phoenix at the trade deadline. Shams reported that. That is so to me, that's fact. And so you see a lot of times that those trade talks get revisited in the offseason. And so if you're the Knicks, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm just, again, using that framework of those three players, and we would probably have to take somebody else back from Phoenix. I haven't thought this all the way through because I don't want it to happen. I don't want to be in the Kevin Durant business. But if you have a starting lineup with Cat, with KD, with OG Anunoby, I guess Brunson and Deuce, I'm guessing, and I don't know what off the bench, but I'm not thrilled with that. But I don't be surprised if something like that happens. I could absolutely see the Knicks going in that direction. I'm not advocating for that, to be clear, but I could absolutely see something like that come to fruition.
We're not advocating talking about. I mean, listen, this is the rumors that's out there, old head. I mean, like Jeff said, he's not saying it's something he would do, but the reports are that the Knicks are going to be aggressive this offseason. And I don't think that means just getting rid of Tom Thibodeau. And Shams reported that they were interested in KD at the trade deadline, and they are still interested in KD. So we're just talking about what's out there. We're just talking about what's out there. Yeah. Get Brunson, get a two guard to play next to Brunson with some size that can run the offense so Brunson can play off ball. So that would be at the two. And get me move. I don't care if OG plays 3 or 4, but if you move him to the get me another 3 and D guy. Whether they play 3 and OG plays 4, they play 4 and OG plays 3. It doesn't matter. Get me a 2 guard with size that can facilitate the offense, and get me a 3 or 4 with size that can hit threes and play some defense. And I'm good. As far as the bench is concerned, how deep do we want to go? Because Deuce and Mitch are our top 2 players off the bench. If you bring in a really good bench player, they move down. They'll still play, but yeah, well, I guess that would be, that would be fine if you bring in a what type of bench player are you looking for? A defender, a scorer, or what type of bench players are you looking for?
Defenders are good, scorers are good.
Particularly if you're going to get KD, you're going to have some rotational diversity. You're gonna have to be able to bring some guys off the bench, or you could have some defensive lineups. I agree with you, JJ. I think Deuce is good, and I want to keep Deuce, and I hope that the coach gives him a bigger role. But I don't think he could be your number 1 scorer off the bench unless he blows up over the summer, or unless he already had that, and we just didn't see it. But we need a bona fide scorer. Don't even have to be a shooter. Scorer. Like, I'm thinking Cam Thomas mold. I'm thinking who else? The Clarkson mold. Doesn't have to be Clarkson, but somebody that can come off the bench and get you some buckets.
Both of those guys you say would be great. Cam Thomas.
Yeah. Sexton. Just come off Sexton is kind of small though, but come off the bench and give you some buckets. Because everyone we have coming off the bench needs to be set up. Like, you have to get shots for them. I need somebody that can create shots.
If you traded Mitch, you could probably find someone who was in that instant offense kind of a mold off the bench. I don't know how great they'd be at defense at that salary slot, but he's $12 or $13 million. You could probably find, I didn't look. I mean, I could for another show, I can kind of do a deep dive into that if you're interested.
Yeah, I am interested. But this is the thing, Geoff. Just like I want a defensive guard that can facilitate next to Brunson to play either with Brunson or come off the bench behind him, I want the same thing for Karl-Anthony Towns. Even if we do lean into the 5-out lineup, I want a center on our bench that can come in and move Towns to 4, to the power forward, and also play behind Towns, right? To me, that would be, that's Mitch. That
I have a friend named Trey who told me the Bol is the answer to those issues. Salute to you, my guy.
Yeah, well, Thibs not here. I was about to say Thibs not playing Bol, but Thibs is not here, so
don't have to worry about that no more.
Right. Karis LeVert. Someone said
LeVert's not a bad player. That fits the mold that you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a little inconsistent, but a lot of these guys are inconsistent, right? Yeah, a lot of these guys are inconsistent. Another question, last question, unless you guys have a question. Do you think, and none of us know, but do you think you can win a chip building around Brunson and Cat? Or is it just you're not quite sure yet?
I think you can, absolutely. First of all, I just think Jalen Brunson is a winner. And we came 6 games short of it in their first season together. Let's not lose sight of that. It's not like we were that far away. It's not like we got bounced in the first round or didn't make the playoffs or, anything like. We were close, so like you're telling me that there's no combination or no tweak to the roster or maybe just tweak to the coaching staff like we're about to see that can push them across the finish line. I'm not going to be that. I mean, I know I'm always the negative Nancy on the panel, but I'm going to believe that. Look, Brunson was a winner in college. He was a winner in high school. So he knows how to win championships, and I think he's going to learn, and I think he's going to get better. And I think that we didn't really see a maximization of he and Towns. And I think that if you fully actualize those two, especially on the offensive end, and get them clicking and with some synergy, which I didn't think they had even in the playoffs, I think that dynamism could be very difficult for the rest of the league to deal with.
Yeah. AJ?
Yes, I second that opinion. I think, yes, we can win a championship with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And, we just have to find the right pieces to put around them and the right system for them to play in. That we can absolutely win chip with those two guys.
Yeah.
And we're not far. We're not far. OG Anunoby fits with them. If he's a little bit more consistent, it's we're not far. We're not far at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The question about Brunson, not maximizing the offense and it not being a free-flowing offense could definitely be a lineup thing or a coach thing. But I think another thing to look at is and I think Geoff said something similar earlier in the show, Brunson at his best self may not be the Knicks at their best self. So getting the best out of Brunson as somebody with the ball in his hands, will you ever have a free-flowing offense with somebody who is so ball dominant? And I think that's a legitimate question. And it could just be growth that's needed, right? Where he just gets better at knowing when. But it can also be moving him to the shooting guard. I think it's too early to have that conversation. We'll see how he does next year and in the year after that. But you have to start asking, can you get everybody involved with someone who's not only is he ball dominant, he's at his best when he's ball dominant. He's at his best. So I think that's, that question will be answered in the next season or so.
But I think if you have the right players around him, it also makes it easier for him to be ball dominant too. In other words,
ball dominant, you mean?
Well, either way, no. I mean more ball dominant, because what I'm saying is so if you have shooters all over the floor and Cat as your big who can play up top, who do you get to pack the paint to stop Brunson? Right? You can't key on him as easily, and that makes it easier for him to do his job even in his ball dominance. And I kind of agree with you. I think. I'm actually thinking that maybe it's a good idea to switch him as a small two guard and bring in an Eric Snow for you old heads out here. And I know that team never won a championship, and Iverson never did, and this and that and the other, but they were close. They made it to the finals, and they ran into Shaq and Kobe. So, I mean, I think that we can excuse that. But maybe playing him as a two guard, giving him, someone in the front in the backcourt, like a DeJounte Murray, perhaps even, who, somebody who can, better than Snow for sure. But I think we can do that. I think we can add that piece to this roster. And I think there are players like that who are available. So, I think that may be a direction that the Knicks need to explore going. I think that may be a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of early But, because you think about, they haven't won championships either, but you think about Stephon Marbury, and I just felt the balance was good. Like he would score. He was a scoring point guard, and he would score, and he would also facilitate. Drew a lot of attention to himself, and would pass to others. Like he just seemed to have had it a little down pat. If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Just in terms of his offense and also facilitating and assisting others. So it can be done. I don't think you have to be a Halliburton to have success. Halliburton, Chris Paul, those are rare right now in the NBA. It is the scoring point guard, right? Who they draw so much attention, it opens it up. It opens it up for others. So I think he can be successful theoretically. I've just seen him at times try to be more of a facilitator and pick his spots, and he just doesn't look like himself. Yeah, just doesn't look like himself. So we shall see.
Yeah, you can't I think we're making a mistake if we try and turn Jalen Brunson into Tyrese Halliburton.
Right? He's not that.
They're different players. He's never going to be that, and it's just setting ourselves up for disappointment. But that doesn't mean that what you talked about all season long with his process and turning into a NBA championship guard is like, and that's a learning curve. And he's pretty smart. And I think in a lot of ways he's improved season to season. And I think he'll continue to get better. But I think that he learned a lesson. I don't know if he learned it, but he got taught a lesson at any rate this postseason. And I hope he learns it well. And he's got to change his game a little bit to be able to adjust to what defenses are doing to him. And he has to do it more frequently. And I have confidence that he will. I mean, he's improved every season he's been with us, in my opinion. And he's an all NBA guard. Like there's not a whole lot of guys I would choose over him, to build a roster around. And, I know there's a lot of, Halliburton and Young and all of these. You can keep all those folks. I'm riding with Jalen Brunson, and we'll see how far it takes us. But I love my point guard, and I think he's going to figure it out.
Yeah, and, we talked about this earlier. When he's looking bad, it's not just him. Sometimes he's looking bad because those other guys are not commanding respect, as Prezi the boss is pointing out. If guys aren't getting open, if they're playing off of them, if they're not, hitting shots, that also, Rebuild NYK said he needs help. One thing impacts the other. So sometimes it's not just him out there pounding the ball for no reason and not getting people involved because he's so selfish. A lot of times it's guys not hitting shots and not, not commanding the respect of the defense. So they're all keying on him. So yeah, we shall see what happens. Looking forward to the new coach. Looking forward, to them reshaping the roster. I personally don't think major things need to be done. But let's see what happens. Are we in agreement though that the top three players would be Cat, Brunson, and OG? Or you would throw as untouched, like that's probably not going to get traded, or you would put Bridges in there as well?
With the caveat that if you're making a big deal, you might need to include Anunoby because he is making $45 million. So if you're going to trade for a big star who's making us $60 million, Anunoby might be the centerpiece of that deal. So I wouldn't include Anunoby in that. Brunson, I don't think is moving anywhere, and I highly doubt that Towns is either. But and everybody else is on notice, in my opinion. Last season we traded Dante DiVincenzo. I don't think they'll blink or hesitate to move Bridges or Hart if they feel it significantly upgrades the roster.
Yeah. Would you trade Hart? Would you trade OG for Giannis and have a Giannis Towns Brunson pairing? Do you think that would work?
If you could do that, 100%. Like if you could make that happen without it, I wouldn't blink. I wouldn't sign me up today. Yeah, I don't see that happening. But yes.
Come on, Queen. That's too easy, man. Give us a harder one. That's easy.
I kind of like Giannis with Cat, because this is the thing that's not talked about. I don't know about a Giannis Brunson pairing. I don't know. I have to think about it. I think, both of them are at their best with the ball in their hands. Giannis is not a shooter, not a 3-point shooter, not a 2-point. Like most of his points come going downhill, having the ball in his hands. You could definitely play Brunson off ball, right? With Giannis, but I'm not that crazy about a Brunson Giannis pairing. And I'm not taking anything away from his individual immense talent. Yeah.
I understand that, but he's Giannis. He's a former MVP. You can get him for a non-former MVP. You kind of first of all, not happening. Let's be clear.
No, I'm talking about him for Cat. Oh, okay. If I like the Giannis Cat Brunson pairing, but if you were to trade Cat for him, I'm not a big fan of just the Brunson Giannis pairing. But yeah, anyway,
it poses different issues certainly than I think the major problem there is both of those two guys need to operate with the ball in their hands, right. And we kind of saw that with Julius Randle and Brunson, right. Having to figure that out. And right. Cat needs the ball more, but he's not going to demand the ball more, right? He's right. Kind of okay with falling into the background a little bit. Giannis is not that, so right. We would get a ton of free throws. So between he and Brunson, we'd be at the line all day.
Yeah, shooting 68% or whatever he shoots. I don't even know. I don't even think it's that.
But Brunson shoots 80-something%.
But we will get the volume for sure. Anything else?
Not really. I think we kind of said it all. We'll find out soon enough. I think that the decisions are coming down the pipe, and we'll have a lot more to talk about pretty quick. And it's June 5th already, so a couple weeks and the draft will be here, and we'll actually start to get some answers about what this roster is going to look like. And I know none of us want to hear it, but by necessity, it may be the Daddiers and the Koliks and the Huckporties and the McCullers who have to step in and become, back end of the rotation players. That just may be a reality for us.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to Nostalgic Nick, JJ, size 9. Paris Duggar, appreciate you. East Blue Drew, appreciate you. A-Train was in the house. Curtis D. Young. Sherman was in the house. HRM, Building Blocks. Prezi the Boss. Hope I got that right. I appreciate Greg. Appreciate you. Rebuild NYK. Vaughn Quan. I don't know if I got that right, but JJ. Appreciate you. I'm missing some people. Old Head. He said Marbury is underappreciated. Very good point guard. No weaknesses. Okay. All right.
I was looking for a comment. Actually,
Mhm.
I actually answered it. It's but I can't find it. I think Greg says, I mean, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't find the thing. He asked me if I'm mad that OB is
Wonder
balling.
Woman. Mad that
If OB is balling. Can y'all please tell him that like I'm one of OB's biggest fan? that I'm still upset that OB got traded. Like I feel like Greg's been here for a while. Like he should know that by here it is. Like I feel like he should know that by now. And I think I said many times here, I watched Pacers game because Obi Toppins is on that team. And I watched Timberwolves game because our guys Julius Randle. And so I actually answered that, but I'm like, Greg, I think you've been here longer. Like he's been on this channel, right?
Yeah,
Greg?
he's a
Greg's
long
not
time.
new. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what are you
he's a vet. He's been with
He's
us
a vet.
probably since the beginning, I think.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Greg? Come on, man. I don't know. I answered that, so I just wanted to bring that up a little bit.
Okay. Shout out to Wonder Woman and shout out to the fam, Trey, Frazier in the house, David G as well. Appreciate you.
Nostalgic Nick.
Yeah. Ralph
He's-
Unreal, Brandon
Yes.
Williams. They were in the house. They were in here early.
Keith Turner. I don't know if Keith Turner's still here. He was here early.
Keith Turner, my guy.
D Grant.
He is happy right now.
Yo, everybody
Keith Turner is popped the bottle. He popped the bottle when he got the news that Tom Thibodeau was fired.
Yeah.
And D Grant, I'm still listening for that Roadrunner to talk, just so you know, bro.
All right.
But
Any last?
last word. Hit the Queen. There's over 150 people in chat. Only 50 likes. Hit the like button. Let's get the algorithm. Let's let YouTube know that we actually appreciate the show, man. It's free. Just click the like button, man. On your way, at least on your way out, do that for us, please.
Yes, definitely click the like button. Let's see if we can quickly run it up to 100 before we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. You know, we like 30% hitting that like button. I guess it's my fault too. I should keep reminding them.
You know what I thought was interesting, and I know I asked for last words. Brunson is a Thibodeau supporter. Kat has a lot of support in the organization, right? With Worldwide West going back to Kentucky. I would think that he didn't get Thibs a strong endorsement. We don't know anything about. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just wondering how much sway now Towns has in in the organization as well now. Kendrick Perkins, when he sat in that fourth quarter game 2, Kendrick Perkins said, Tom Thibodeau about to get fired. And when he explained it on his podcast, Road Tripping, I love that, with him, Shannon Fry, and what's the other one? Jefferson. He said that not because of the it wasn't the right move, basketball wise, but because of the relationship that Towns has with Leon Rose, which Brunson also has, and Worldwide West, that he felt like that could get him fired if Towns is not happy. So I just wonder, Brunson's strong support didn't really go that far.
I don't think it had much to do with players liking him or not liking him. I feel like it was mostly basketball reasons.
No. They talked well, in a sense they didn't like his approach. It was, I mean, that could have been why they didn't like it, but this was going on for a while. This wasn't just about the Indiana series.
There's something off about this team from January. Like, no joke. I mean, there's just none of us could put our finger on it, but the chat was saying it. I was saying it. Y'all were saying it. There's just something that was different about this group compared to every other season with Thibodeau, except maybe the one that we missed the playoffs. It had a similar vibe to that season. And I think that it's kind of like, oh, well, first time, okay, we'll excuse it. Second time, maybe not so much. So the vibe was off on this team. There's no killer instinct, and they just weren't a team in the true sense of the word. And that, that's what you have to be champions, whether you like each other or not, or any of that stuff doesn't. You don't have to be friends. There were championship teams. Well, Shaq and Kobe couldn't stand each other, but they won championships because they played great together when they were on the court, right? So what matters is what you're doing when you're on the floor, and we didn't have that cohesion and that synergy, and we still made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think with change in leadership, some new ideas, some fresh blood, maybe we'll keep ascending the mountain because we've been on an upward trend.
Yeah, Kevin Bergen, it's called road tripping. Yeah.
And I was gonna say the reports coming out that some players have a problem with Rick Brunson being on the bench. I don't buy that stuff. I think this is all BS. I think that's just all clickbait or media nonsense. That's just my opinion of it. I don't know.
I think it does set up an interesting dynamic, though, when you have a player's father on the bench. I think it sets up an interesting dynamic. Can you complain to the assistant coaches are there for multiple reasons, but one of them also is to complain about the coach or to complain about other things. You're not complaining to him. I mean, they do got 52 assistant coaches, so you could find somebody else. But you're not. What are you saying about Brunson to the assistant coach? Nothing. You can't say anything about him. So it does set up an interesting dynamic. It'll be interesting to see if he's back.
I wouldn't be sad if Rick stepped aside or got kicked up to the front office. But I don't wish him gone by any stretch of imagination, but I think it's healthier for our bench if he's not on the direct coaching staff.
But then every coach come in with their own crew, so you'd have to imagine that he's like most of those guys gonna be gone.
Johnny Bryant was hired independent of Thibodeau, so the Knicks are certainly willing to forego that rule. And I don't think he picked Kenny Payne or Mike Woodson either for his original staff. So while that's generally true in a rule, I don't think it applies to the Knicks situation, or at least it hasn't in the past. Maybe that's something that Leon Rose will change, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Check me out Monday. I'm gonna do the last episode of the Queen's Court for the season. So that'll be this Monday on Nothing But Knicks. And then at least until things slow down, I would like to go on twice a week. I don't know. I just think once a week is so much, it's so much happening. I mean, I don't think the shows have to be super long, or I'll just maybe go on by myself. But yeah, I don't think once a week is going to be enough with all that I'm anticipating happening in Knick universe.
Which means it's going to be a quiet time.
No, and Queen, if they name a coach too, you probably have emergency podcasts.
Yes, we'll have an emergency. Yeah, we'll have emergency podcast. Free agency, we'll have emergency Yeah. It's an exciting time, a scary time too. I don't think we really touched on the. I thought I understood the move to get rid of Tom Thibodeau. I still think it is a risky move. We can be, like you said, Geoff, Steve Kerr, and the next thing you know, we're in the Eastern Conference, we're in the NBA Finals, winning 60-something games, or we can take a step back. So let's see what
Can I
happens.
put my preacher hat on for a second, Queen?
Sure.
You allow me to put my preacher hat on for just a second?
Yeah.
Fear is the enemy of faith.
Okay.
Fear is the enemy of faith. Let us not be afraid. Let us have faith in our team.
Okay. All right. And the front office, you know, they've been pretty methodical up to this point. There's a fine line between being super aggressive and trying to seize the moment in terms of coaching, in terms of going after KD, and being, I think reckless is real strong. That's not the right word. Just being
Impulsive.
Right. Impulsive. That's a great
And reactionary.
Word. And react. It's a fine line, and I definitely get it. You know, I definitely get the aggressiveness, particularly Tom Thibodeau. And I said that if you don't have faith in your coach, he gotta go. Like, you gotta be lockstep. But yeah, it's impulsive, right? Yeah, impulsive. So let's see. All right, fam. Appreciate you. We're sneaking in. Appreciate you. Until next time, family.
Oh, I gotta end it.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
shine. DopeSoul.
Where you at?
DopeSoul.
Where you at?
DopeSoul.